Hello and welcome to the SML podcast. This is SML Total Access. I am Primetime000, the commissioner of the league, and with me today, as always, my trusted co-host, ZZ the Great. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, Prime? What's up, SML?
It's we're almost. I think we're 3/4 of the way through the season, just about. A lot happening in the SML. Got some
Uh,
great teams that have fallen, some good teams that have kind of uprisen. What do you think?
yeah. It was a recently. Field General wrote a great article focused on the rise and fall of some of these teams, and of course, it's centered around the Colts in particular.
Yes.
And he talked about how your stats have changed. What is the reason that a lot of this is happening? And could it be updates? Could it be certain stuff? But then again, and this is my particular thing, and we're just gonna talk about your team here for a second. I just think that it's the NFL. Think about how many games you won by 1 point.
Right.
Or, I mean, not 1 point or one score.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's that one thing that that could possibly happen. And even for great teams, even for the Patriots, for the the 90, what was it, 95 Bulls, and what 92 before that. Any great team, or Tiger Woods even. Sometimes you're gonna have those unlucky breaks that just happen.
Yeah.
And they're gonna happen, and you're gonna have a down season. And it is what it is. I've seen it happen to the Gov. I've seen it happen to the Chiefs. So I put it in a barrel of, I mean, it's just sometimes shit happens. It's a coincidence.
Right. And I think
What do you think is going on?
yeah, man, it's I think when you start losing, you do even as confident and as competitive as I am, I guess you do get in a rut at times, or you get the yips, and then when one thing goes wrong or awry in a game, you sit there and you get the Raider slash field mentality, like here we go again,
Yeah,
Madden's got me, and I think a little bit of that's happening, and
I know that all too well, my brother.
and it's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I mean, I remember watching this Peyton Manning interview. He was on the Colts at the time, and the Colts. Obviously, you were a Texans fan, so for years and years,
Yes.
12-4, AFC
Yes.
South, and then it was the year after they won or lost to the Saints in the Super Bowl. Peyton had the stretch where he threw like 3 interceptions every game, and then they finally won one, and they got back on track, and they made the playoffs. But they asked Peyton after the game, "Hey, what's been the deal? What's going on?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I've had a missing streak here lately, but the past 10 years I've been on a pretty good hitting streak as well. So I mean, I've won
Right,
15
right.
championships. I'm
Yes.
not going anywhere. That being said, it's cool for the league
I'm gonna
to.
tell
Oh, go on.
No. I'm gonna tell you what's the good thing for you is that you're not aging like Peyton Manning,
Yeah.
and in our situation, age doesn't play as big a factor. So anybody who thinks Prime is out of this, you're out of your mind. So
Yeah.
just temporarily for you to have a bad season. But my big question is, and the one I want you to answer is, are you gonna make the playoffs this year?
Hey man, look, it doesn't look good right now. It does not look good. But you know me, I'm gonna keep freaking throwing them fists until I'm out of it. So
Yes.
I think I'm going to win this week. We got a game coming up, and I think that's going to catapult me. And I'm going to come with a fire of 1,000 suns, and the Colts will make the playoffs.
Don't throw them punches like Wild, because he got his ass taxed by
You got.
Fury.
What do you think? What do you think about the Colts?
Look, as far as the coach is concerned, making the playoffs this year, it's going to be hard. Out of the AFC, being even if you do 10-6, you're still going to have a rough time getting in. So,
So no, just
but
say it.
no. I've been in the SML long enough, and I've lived long enough to not underestimate great players. And I'm gonna make a bold prediction: say you will make the playoffs. You'll win out.
Nice.
No, wait a minute. You'll make it at 9-7. Sorry.
uh,
Because I'm gonna beat you today.
I do want to touch on one more thing, and I'm not too sure about that. We'll have to make our official predictions, but I do want to say I've noticed a lot of people like Field tried running it up on me. I'll call out Field General. A few other people they're happy about
Yes.
this that the Colts are down, but just
Yes.
know I've been pretty good about not running it up on people. So I'm marking names down. I've got a hit list, and This hit list is just gonna keep growing and growing. The Colts aren't going anywhere.
Yes.
But moving on though, Colts versus
Yes.
Saints. What is your prediction?
My prediction is I will pull this out by 7 points. I'm going to win today. I'm going to kick the Colts while they're down. I'm
Yes.
going to try to put my foot on his neck. I'll be shaking my head and I'll be crying the whole time I'm doing it. But I'm going to go ahead and end this thing today.
It's it's the old Yeller situation. You just gotta pull the trigger.
Yes.
Uh, I think I've
Yep.
got my swag back. I've got my swag. I don't have any reason to have my swag back, but I feel different. Colts by 17.
Don't blow me up.
um,
No. Well, go ahead.
Moving on though, playoff push is on for a lot of teams, obviously, except for not us. But what do you think? What do you think about who's the best team in the SML right now? We got the Jaguars, the Ravens, the Chiefs. Graham's playing well. Oshi's playing well.
Yes.
Gov playing well. Even Noel Overlord 6-2-1. Who's the
Yes.
best team in the SML?
The best team in the SML right now, I would have to go with. I mean, excluding the fact that I know you and Gov are just warriors and eventually going to show up. But for right now, the best team for me is going to be the Chiefs. He's playing great.
Yeah,
He's not losing a lot of games. He's been playing some pretty stiff competition, and he's 9-1 right now. He also has a pretty good team. He's an 86 overall team. He's third in scoring, second in passing yards, third in passing yards, second in overall yards. His defense has been also holding up at he's sixth overall in the league. He bends a little bit because he's 27th in passing and 23rd in overall yards, 17th in rushing, but he's still sixth in points. He's not letting anybody score. So right now, Chiefs is playing great ball, man. They're putting points up on people and they're not letting them score.
yeah. The Chiefs is obviously 9-1, just having a great season. His only loss has been to Big Oshi. He lost 28-14. I'm looking at the
Yes.
Jaguars as a good team. The one thing I will say about Jacksonville is he lost to the Chiefs, and the thing about Dump is he loses to guys that you wouldn't expect him to lose to. Look, Mike FML
Yeah.
is low key a great player. I mean, he's a very good player that he's just not consistent all the time. And Mike FML beat him 36-28. And Jags are sitting at 7-2, so that's probably the top two teams in the AFC. I'm leaving Conk off the talk because he bless you because he just lost to Jacksonville, and then he also dropped one to Royce. So Conk I think is off it. Looking at the NFC, Oshi's 8-1, and he's got a big game against the Bears coming up on Monday. Me and QB Stud are going to commentate that game, and that will tell the story of which team is the best team in the NFC. I think.
Yeah, I think that'll be great. It's going to be nice to see Oshie back on the big stage again because, of course, he played in the Super Bowl last year. So it's going to be good to see him get back to where he was. The Governor's 7-2 right now as well. So I mean, as always, don't count those guys out. And I love my boy Future, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the top of the NFC is I think we have to mention. I mean, Gramazon's. I think he's one of our. He's probably the guy that puts in the most time in Madden in our league, and I don't even think he plays much. But he is definitely a perennial player. He's always been in the mix. I think Graham's missed the playoffs one time before. He's kind of found his swag for this cycle, late in the cycle. So don't forget about Graham's, man. This might be his year.
Yeah, remember Graham's early in the cycle was considering retirement. He was not
Yes.
happy with the game. He was not just the superstars. But look, he stuck with it. He's 8-1. He's got a great team he's built. And it'll be interesting to see how his season progresses. He's got the Bears coming up, the Eagles, the Redskins. That's the SML primer goat. That's Sunday squad.
Yes.
Then he's got the Eagles again, the Patriots, Sunday squad again, and then Gab Mac. So I mean that schedule is brutal. That's a brutal schedule. And if we see Gronk, Graham split those games and go 12-4, I mean it's hard to say that the Cowboys aren't the best team in the NFC. But he still has that shadow that looms over him, which is Gov in the playoffs and Oshie in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the big thing because like you said, he does have to play Gov. He does have to play gamepad. Well, not gamepad anymore,
Sunday
but
Squad.
I think Sunday Squad might be
Better.
a better replacement than gamepad, dude. Because this guy here has he's appeared in the Super Bowl once. He's won one big game. Um, but I don't know how much you guys know about well, most people don't know too much about the Prime in the SML, but Grams was the guy who subbed in when the Steelers left the primer due to that emergency. Grams had to sub in for a Super Bowl, and Grams won a Super Bowl in the primer against Sunday
Yes.
Squad.
And
So let's not forget about that.
yeah, Grams is a great player, and I think I'm going to say it. Grams is the best player in the NFC this year.
Yes.
But
Yes.
hey, man, let's get real though. NFC playoffs, if they ended today, the Green Bay Packers, lawyer killer, he's back. I'm calling it. He is finally back. We've been waiting for the moment, and lawyer killer is back at 6-3. He's got the Packers if the season ended today in the playoffs. Is this guy a team that nobody's talking about that could make a Super Bowl run? I mean, look, he's got as big of a clutch gene, or as close as a clutch gene as I do. I mean, that's the next best guy I think in the playoffs is lawyer killer.
Yes. I mean, I've always said it. Lawyer Killer, man, when he's on, he is he's almost unbeatable. And I hate that he turned it on when he did, because he beat me in the primer, then he backdoored to beat me in the SML when I was trying to get my team back on his feet. But Lawyer Killer, man, he's always been that guy. Once he turns it on, and a lot of guys don't know because he hasn't showed it much this cycle. But when he turns it on, dude, this could be a guy who will sneak into the playoffs and surprise everybody he plays.
It's one of those guys that you do not want to face in the playoffs. You would just about
No.
rather face any other team.
Yes.
Let's
Yes.
let's go ahead. A few more teams I want to talk about here before we switch gears, if you will.
Huh?
Chris and Kells 5-5. He's right on the bubble. Do you see him make the playoffs?
Chris and Kells, 5-5 Broncos. Chris is a great player. As I understand, he's been taking a little back seat lately because he got a few things going on.
Yeah.
So looking at that and his schedule, Chris has the Chargers coming up, which very surprisingly, the Chargers are 1-8, and they have not been doing great this year. Then he has to play the Chiefs. Then he has the Raiders, the Surgeon Raiders. I don't know if they're Surgeons so much anymore at 4-5. And then he has to play Royce. Then he has Lawyer. Then he has Conk. Now, that's a fairly difficult schedule, and I'm gonna say with the issues that Chris is having right now, I don't think he's gonna probably make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Chris, once again, a solid player. I played him once, and he's very, very solid, actually. Surprisingly good because he doesn't get much hype. NFC South, real quick, I want to look at that. Bucks in a commanding lead, 6-2-1. The next closest is Mike FML at 4-5. Looks like the Bucks have kind of took a hold of that division.
Yeah, not so much commandingly because NFC South. There's no telling what might happen down there. So, man, the Bucks, man, I played them in a tough game the last time we played. It went back and forth. I think the lead changed maybe 4 times before he eventually got he ended up winning by 10 points, 14 points, something like that. But, dude, you're 1 or 2 games away from losing the NFC South. If I look at the Bucks schedule right now, because with the Panthers being 4-5, the Falcons being 4-5, and me right behind them at 3-5, anybody could easily take this if the Bucks schedule is not that good, which he has the killer of all lawyers coming up. Then he has to play with Mike, which is any given Sunday with Mike. He has Tiny Titans after that. Then he has the Jaguars. And then he has the car. He has a Surgeon Cards. Cards could maybe pull off a win. And then he has Texas Field General. And then he has me. So towards the end of the schedule, if he loses a couple of games he's supposed to win, I could see anybody taking the NFC South.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, kind of how that plays out. You mentioned a team I want to talk about in the Arizona Cardinals. Last week on the podcast, I called him out. I said that he had basically an easy schedule to begin, and then he had some tough teams to play, and he wasn't going to make the playoffs. And it was my don't at me bro section, and he
Yes.
he added me. He added me, and he said, he's like, oh, we'll see. He's pretty mad. He's pretty mad.
Yeah.
And how did he back this up? He lost the Seahawks 14-38. He lost the Redskins 38-10. He lost the Eagles 7-48. Um,
Ooh.
and now I see him on Twitter talking about how he's not having any fun. Don't give me that, Colt. Don't give me that. I want to see you step it up, and I want to see you make the playoffs. Now you can't go
Yeah.
backing up on it now. I want to see you make the playoffs. I'm challenging you to make the playoffs. So,
Dude, you can't just only have fun when you win. I mean, that's not how this works, or else I wouldn't even be here.
yeah.
So, hey man, the Cards have struggled like many of us, and I mean, if you're gonna continue to struggle because you got Spooky World coming up, which he hasn't been doing great this year. Then you got Meats coming up after that. Then you got Future after that. So things are not gonna get too much better in the recent coming weeks. So just enjoy yourself, play the game, man. Who knows, you might win.
Yeah. And
let's not take this all too serious, because he is the next guy next to Raider as far as conspiracy, because he will rant about the game being against them and show video and all that kind of stuff. So, but we all enjoy you, man. Have fun.
He's great.
That's my biggest thing.
He is a good player. I do sometimes, and this will be my closing statement on this topic. Sometimes guys are good players and they're horrible team builders. Colt 45, horrible team builder. He let Kyler Murray go. Didn't free up enough space to be able to re-sign him, so he had to trade him to Rolls Royce. And I think to be a great connected franchise player, you have to be good at being a GM. And you see Meats all the time. You see myself all the time making trades, Meats drafting well. And some guys just don't field good teams. And I think that's what the Cardinals is doing.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys, man. I think his team is 83 overall, as well as mine. And considering with the team I started with, I suck at building. But I'm getting better. I used to be worse than this. So
last year you did horrible.
I did horrible. Yeah, I did horrible.
I want to go off kilter a little bit before we hit barbershop talk. Field on his podcast with rating the field that had QB stud. It was a good listen. You guys should check it out if you haven't already. I want to plug them. I want to plug Meets' new show with QB stud, Crunching the Numbers. That's their new name. I had a nice graphic in chat. I want to plug that show. Polly's got a show coming up. Obviously Royce is doing his thing. But anyway, on QB Field and Raiders podcast they did. Field had noted, I think he was kidding or a little bit in jest, that Meets is the cheesiest player in the SML. I'm assuming, I think a lot of what he's saying here is that Meats, outside of the little swerve run with Golden, is running with the quarterback. Do you associate running with a QB as cheese, or what's your thoughts on that? Now, this is just my opinion, what I'm taking from what Field said. So I'm putting words in his mouth, but I feel like this is kind of what he's getting at.
Yeah. And I think and Meats, I'm gonna take up from my boy. Meats explained this the other day that I think in real life, Lamar ran the ball 60 something times or something last year, or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly what the numbers was, but and that equated to about 6-7 times each game that he had a designed run or ran with the ball, and Meats pointed out the fact that he had only ran up to 2 times per game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those 2 times might be for big yardage or whatever, but you got to realize he is playing with the Ravens. You can't take away something that is an advantage for that particular team, because every team is built a certain way. So if you're saying that, one guy is throwing to a particular receiver too much, but in real life, that's kind of what they do. That's why that guy leads in receiving, and Lamar runs the ball. But Meats, literally restricts himself from running. So I wouldn't say he's the cheesiest player. What I would say is Meats is probably one of the most engaged players in our league. As far as looking at stats, figuring out team building, every single point that he can get, and every advantage he can muster every legal advantage he can muster, and sometimes he skirts the line. But other than that, man, Meats is far from the cheesiest player. I mean, he doesn't run the same plays over and over. He
Yeah.
doesn't do anything that I see is like obviously wrong. And if you guys don't know, Meats is the guy that watches out for the SML. He watches
Yes.
these guys every time they play the CPU, every time they playing somebody else and they running the score, doing something extra. Meats is that guy. So let's show the guy a little bit of respect.
Yeah.
He's just a good player right now.
Yeah, and I do find it interesting. Now, the thing about Lamar and Field, general with Deshaun Watson,
Yeah.
they both have escape artists. So when you see that little star light up when the quarterback starts running, it is, I can see where he's coming from, where it's like, oh God, here we go again. Like when you watch a game of Meats. And but just to kind of close on that topic, to put things into perspective, Lamar Jackson has run the ball 24 times this season, and Deshaun Watson of the Texans has ran the ball 29 times this season. And I know Field in the game with me ran it 5 times, but we disconnected and had to knee it out, so he didn't get those rushes. So Meats is not running with Lamar as much as we think he is. He might be moving around in the pocket, though. I mean, I don't know. I'm
going to tell you who's running more than all of them. Lawyer, because I played him the other day. Lawyer, I think, is leading the league, if I'm not mistaken, in QB rushing.
Really? His quarterback is
Cam Newton.
Oh, yes. He made a big trade.
He has Cam. He ran on me like 6-7 times.
Yes, Cam Newton, 41.
Cheesy. It was just when he did it.
41 carries for Cam Newton, so you hit it on the head. And I mean, nobody talks about that. Why? You know why? And I'll tell you why. Because it's not as dynamic. Cam Newton is not the same player he was at the beginning of the cycle. So
true that.
So if he was,
but the fact that he's still running is still, we got to compare those two things. He's taken off with the quarterback. Meats is not.
Exactly. So, but everything gets blown up when people start winning. I mean, look at the Patriots in real life. I mean, there's a website called Your Team Cheats, and it talks about every NFL team that cheats, and every team has cheated and had a scandal. But people only talk about the Patriots because they're good and they win.
Why do you think they talked about the Astros? Yes. Every single team cheated in baseball. Matter of fact, scouting pitch counts is something that has always been a part of baseball. It's been routinely known that everybody watches pitch counts, which is why pitchers and catchers are supposed to change up pitch counts. They're supposed to switch it up and trick you. So, I mean, just because the Astros won and they took that extra step with the videotaping and all that kind of stuff, that's why they got called out.
Yes.
Had they lost that year, you would have never.
No one would have said nothing. Exactly. Nope. So moving on here to our final topic, it's the barbershop talk. Bzz, bzz, that's the razor noise because I'm too lazy to edit it in. NFL talking about moving to a 17-game season. What's your thoughts on that?
And I think it is fantastic. This is the good thing about all this, right, is that they have managed to develop a system that has integrated an extra playoff team into the mix from each conference without adding an extra game.
Yes.
And it makes it way more interesting, and it makes it way more important to be that number one team in the league. So guys aren't going to simply lay off towards the end of the year if they're up and they're the number one team, because you want to stay the number one team because you want that bye. As I understand it, one team gets a bye, right?
Yes, one team per conference.
Yeah, one team per conference. Okay, so we're gonna have 7 teams from each conference. One team gets that complete 100% bye. You don't have to play that extra game. And we don't lose any games in the playoffs as fans, and we get to see 2 extra teams. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's interesting because just reading into this a little bit, each team would have an extra bye week in their season.
Yes.
Another thing is they would reduce the amount of preseason games. I think they would take them down
by one.
By one.
It's 3.
3 preseason games. Obviously, you said there would be now 7 playoff teams from each conference. The number 1 seed gets the bye week.
Awesome.
So it is interesting only for the fact that they talk about player safety and everything and extending the season by one. I mean, let's be real. If you can't say you're taking away a preseason game and then that's going to counteract the player safety thing because the starting players don't play the fourth preseason
Don't
game anyway.
true that.
So
Yes.
how can you go and say you care about player safety and then add another game and try to count that the bye week is going to make that big of a difference in their health? I mean, it sounds like it's a pretty grueling season. I mean, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by it. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, but
It, it,
I don't buy the player safety thing as a like it just shows that they're in it for the
yeah.
dollar bills.
Well, I'm gonna tell you one thing is that the NFL will never ever be commendated for protecting their players because the NFL football is a harsh sport. I mean, and it's guys are gonna get hurt. There is a risk. A lot of these guys know it. It used to be worse. It's gotten better. So adding the way that they did it, I think was great because they tried. They at least attempted not to um, put more onto the players. Okay, and then and if you play an extra game, shit, you get extra money, and this is what they're out there for. So I think it's great for the fans. I think it's great for the whole league. It's the same thing with college football, how they tried to fight for certain things to
Yeah.
get the playoffs going. So I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's interesting, and just for the sake of this podcast, I'm going to take an opinion of I don't like it because just like the SML with the Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday advanced, I get asked every so often, why don't we do a 48-hour advance? And I think
Yes,
sometimes if you have a little bit longer of an advance at some point, it creates people wanting more. And you always want people to want more of your product than to be
yes,
oversaturated. And the NFL's already added Thursday night football, which no one watches, and a few other
yeah.
things. So just, I'm
My
afraid they're going towards the oversaturation a little bit.
my rebuttal: you can't oversaturate playoff football. Playoff football is the greatest thing on the planet.
Yeah,
One extra game of playoff football is for me is just going to be one extra
yes,
great night of fun.
yeah,
So and then of course this is part of the collective bargaining agreement that the NFL Players Union is signing. This is what they have agreed to. So you're signing a contract. You're saying this is what we're willing to do.
right.
So it's their decision.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I lean towards your side though. J.J. Watt said it would be a hard pass, a hard no. That
Yeah,
he doesn't want to.
he's old. He's
He's
old
against.
though.
Yeah, he's old exactly.
He
So
doesn't want to play
he
more
can't stay
games.
he can't stay healthy for
Barely
16
wants
games.
to play. Exactly. He barely wants to play the games he plays.
So
So I can understand that. But hey, man, the NFL is a young guys league. I mean, it is what it is.
and the final question then before we wrap this up is: do you
Yes.
think football's still not a lot of games compared to basketball or baseball? We'll never see a rest game or a rest game or two for certain players, will we?
Like a rest game in football, like them sitting out
Yeah, like
games.
LeBron, like used to on a back to
Yeah,
back.
yeah. I think they do it. I think they do it now. I think a lot of players fake injuries or they put guys on injury reports that aren't really hurt, and they use that to get these guys rest games. But that depends on whether you win. And as we know, the football season is a lot shorter than any
Yeah.
kind of basketball or baseball, so you don't have that window of time to rest. Nor do you have to play that many games.
Yeah.
So I mean, so
It's
it all kind of balances out.
it's interesting to think about and toss around. Either way,
Yes.
we have no say in it. We're just gonna watch the sport no matter what. We're gonna do the thing.
Yes.
It'll be
You know we
interesting to see SML games, how they'll be affected. A
Oh,
17 game
that's gonna
season.
be yeah, yeah. So this is gonna be great. Next year, next cycle, I'll probably be making the playoffs every cycle.
I mean, look at the guys. Look at the guys who are always out, just out. Woods, he is always
Yep,
out. I mean, just
yep,
off the top of my head, I mean, Field is. I feel like he's been so close, and he's always out.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
in the NFC, there's some guys as well where they're just a game out, and who knows? Maybe this season it might be me. And with a 17 game
Yeah.
season, that extra playoff spot, you never know what could happen.
Yeah, think about it, Prime. You could easily make the playoffs with that
Oh
situation.
yeah, man, I'm making the playoffs this year, so it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, hey, man, this is SML Total Access, though, guys. Apply today, simmadleague.com, the best league on PS4. I'll let you sign us off.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Also, shout out to my guys. Great getting the games in. I think we have still 2 spots open because Chris had to leave. But other than that, we got 2 spots open. Sign up for the primer, join the primer, do great in there, join the SML, greatest league on the planet. You guys have a great day.